Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and in this video I'm going to walk you through how to make a super cute little chalkboard Easter design. Okay, so first things first for this workshop, for tools, you're obviously going to need a chalkboard. Mine is not very big. It's like the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which is fine, but you can use absolutely whatever chalkboard you have. Then, of course, you're going to need some chalk. I'm just using these colored chalks from Amazon. They're Crayola, but you can really use whatever colors you want. You could even just use white if that's all that you have. It doesn't matter. This is going to be totally your choice and your style. Next, sharpener, and I'm just using this metal sharpener with 2 holes. You need that bigger hole. That's going to be the one that you're going to use to sharpen your chalk. So if you only have one with a small hole, make sure you get one with a big hole. Next up, of course, you're going to need a pencil, and I like using one with an eraser on the end. You're going to see why when we start doing some details, but any basic pencil. And then lastly, of course, you're going to need your sketch. So we're going to talk about this next, but yeah, you're going to need the design you want to do to put onto your board. Okay, so step 1 is obviously to prepare our design on paper. Now, for the purposes of this video, I've done a lot of the preliminary stuff off camera. So I did a bunch of sketches and I came up with a design, a basic design thumbnail that I wanted to use. And so now I'm just using a pencil to draw it out bigger. And this doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just doing this in pencil first and kind of roughing it in. And then I'm going to take brush pens and finish it off. Now, normally I don't do this step when I'm just doing something for myself, but to make it super easy for you, I actually digitized it and made it into a printable version. So after I finished this in pencil and brush pen, I digitized it, which I actually have a whole video on if you want to learn how to do that for yourself. But if you want to create your own sketch, you can just copy along with what I'm doing here, or you can create anything you want to put onto your own board. So if you want to do that, just pause the video now and complete your sketch and have it as perfect as possible to transfer onto your board. Or you can head to thehappyevercrafter.com/Easter and you can download the exact sketch that I've created for you and digitized for you. So you can just download it and print it off. So that's exactly what I'm going to be working off of for mine. So my chalkboard's pretty small, so I just printed this on 8.5 by 11 paper, and that'll fit, but scale it however you need. So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your chalk and your sharpener, and you're gonna sharpen the end of the chalk so that it's nice and pointy, so that you can get as accurate of lines as possible. You can see I'm using a muffin liner thing, which is kind of fitting for Easter. I made Easter cupcakes and I ate one, so then I used this to sharpen my chalk into. Then you're gonna go over every line on your sketch and just cover it in chalk essentially. So the neater you can be here, the better it'll be, because you don't want to get a whole ton of chalk dust and make it all confusing on your chalkboard afterwards. So just going over each line as nicely and neatly as you can, and finishing up the whole sketch. All right, once it's all covered in chalk, you're gonna grab your chalkboard and align your sketch with the chalk side down wherever you want it to be on your chalkboard. So I'm just dusting mine off here before I put this down, and I'm gonna flip it over and then place it wherever I want it on there. You can also tape it down if you want to, but I feel like just positioning it and holding it is easy enough with this one because it's so small. If yours is big though, you might want to tape it down. Then I'm going to grab my pencil, and you're going to do the exact same thing that you did with the chalk, but now with the pencil. So you're going to go back over your sketch and you're essentially just applying pressure to the board so that it pushes the chalk on the back onto the chalkboard. And this is going to create your guidelines on the board. So just go over your whole sketch again with your pencil nice and neatly. And then once you're done, you can lift it up and you'll see the perfect transfer. This is like my favorite hack so that you don't have to actually draw any rough stuff on your chalkboard itself. You can just actually have your perfect sketch and not have to make it a mess. Okay, so now comes the fun part. You can choose whatever colors you want, and we're just gonna go ahead and complete this design. So like I said, you can choose whatever colors you want. I am sort of a minimalist and I don't love to put too many colors on here. So I'm gonna do white for the ears and the mouth, and then I'm going to do some colors on the banner part and the Easter word. So again, choose whatever colors you want. We're going to just kind of hop in and play around with this. You can copy exactly what I'm doing, or you can do whatever you want. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm starting with my white, and I'm just going to fill in the bunny ears. Now you could just do these as an outline and leave it at that. Generally, that's what I do, honestly. I'm not a huge realistic drawer. I kind of tend to do more like icon looking things. But for this chalkboard, I felt like experimenting a little bit. So I'm just gonna kind of start filling in these spots with my chalk, and then I'm gonna experiment with kind of smushing it around and creating some shading. One tool that I find really handy is a cotton swab or a Q-tip. These can work better than your finger if you want to smudge stuff, because your finger has oils on it and it tends to lift up a lot of the chalk, whereas a Q-tip will more like smudge it around. So I use this to move the chalk around and kind of create a bit more dimension. And again, I'm just kind of playing with this until I like the look of it. There's no real game plan here. The other tool I really like using is the tip of the pencil, so the eraser. This can actually lift up some of the chalk and make like a shaded line. So I use this to add, again, a little bit more depth, and I just kind of wipe off the chalk every time I use it. So just work at your own pace here, fill it out however you want to until you're happy with it. You can pause the video if you need to and just keep working at that piece until you're happy with the way it looks. And you can always come back later and add more or erase more, smudge more, whatever you need to do, but I'm pretty happy with this. All right, there we have it. The ears are done. So now I'm gonna move on to the colored part, and I'm gonna do the banner that says happy. Okay, so I'm gonna use the pink, and the one thing I need to note here is that I'm gonna draw over this entire banner, so these letters are gonna get erased, unfortunately. But basically, I just want you to note that you're gonna have to kind of remember where those are, because we're gonna draw over them, which sort of defeats the purpose of the transfer we did earlier, but sometimes that happens if you're adding color, if you're doing layers and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna sharpen my chalk here, and then I'm gonna fill in the whole banner with this pink color. Once I have that base layer of pink, again, I'm gonna grab the Q-tip and I'm gonna just kind of smudge it and soften it a little bit, because it's a little bit harsh and you can see the strokes of my drawing and stuff right now. So I'm just gonna soften the whole thing. Next, I'm using the lighter pink, and this is gonna be to write the word happy on top of the darker pink. So sharpening that nice and sharp, because obviously to do letters, you want it to be as sharp and precise as possible. And what I like to do is I like to start in the middle. So I'm gonna grab my sketch and see as a reference where each letter sort of falls. So I'm looking at the word Easter underneath and I'm seeing where it falls, and I'm gonna put the P in the middle first, because I find it's easier to center the word that way. I also, again, like to keep the chalk really sharp when I'm doing these letters, so I kind of sharpen it once or twice as I'm doing a word like this. So I'm working out from the middle. Now I'm adding the next P, and I'm just gonna keep adding the letters until I've got the whole word. Now as I'm doing this A, you can see that the chalk broke a little bit and I had to use my fingers to pick it up. And you can see that it smudged the darker pink in the background a little bit. So as soon as I'm finished with this word, this letter, I'm gonna grab the darker pink and I'm gonna just touch it up a little bit. So I'm gonna smudge it with my Q-tip and then add a little bit more color and just keep working it until it looks better. So that's the nice thing about chalk, is you can just keep adding chalk dust, or you can remove chalk dust and just keep layering it as you need to. It's really easy to fix mistakes. At this point, I'm starting to realize that my word is not properly centered. I think I made my letters a little bit too big. So again, like I just mentioned, it's really easy to fix chalk mistakes. So I'm just gonna erase it with my Q-tip, smudge everything in. Right now it looks messy, but you'll see how easy it is to fix in just a second. And I'm gonna grab the darker pink and again, just layer more on top. Just like it never happened. I think a lot of creators might, edit out this mistake and redo it, but I like to show you how easy it is to fix things and how it's not just beginners that make these mistakes. It happens all the time. Okay, perfect. So now I've got my letters in. I'm just gonna kind of darken them a little bit, give them a little bit more thickness, and finish up this banner. Next up, we're gonna move on to doing the word Easter, and I'm using a light blue here, so I'm just gonna sharpen this. And then I'm going to use my faux calligraphy skills to fill in the word. So I'm doing the outline of the letter first, and then I'm adding the thicknesses. If you've never done faux calligraphy before, I've got videos about this all over the channel. So I'll link to one up in the top corner for you right now. Again, if you've never done it before, you might want to pause this video and watch that and kind of sharpen your skills a little bit on faux calligraphy and then come back. So basically, I'm just filling out this word with my faux calligraphy all in the light blue shade first. In the spot where the T is kind of suggested that it's crossed by the banner, I'm going to add a tiny, tiny bit of the blue into the bottom of the banner here as well, just kind of, again, to suggest that that's what the cross of the T is. You don't need a ton because your eye naturally kind of fills in that blank for you, but I like to, add a little bit of more of a suggestion there. Not a ton, just a little bit. Okay, next I'm going to grab my darker blue and we're going to do some shading on the word Easter. So basically on about the bottom third of every letter, I'm going to add this darker blue and give it just some, some extra fun and some extra shading. So just go on the bottom of every letter and add in, and just keep going until you like the way that it looks and you like the darkness of that extra blue. All right, and then the very last step we have to do, obviously, is fill out the nose of the bunny. So I'm going to kind of match what I did in the top there, and I'm going to do a more shaded nose. So I'm just sharpening up my white chalk here. And there's not really any rules of how you should do this. I'm just going to kind of start adding some chalk and some chalk dust and outline things and keep smudging them and playing around with them until I'm happy. Again, I'm using that Q-tip to smudge around some of the dust, and then I'm using the tip of my eraser to add in some little details wherever I feel like it makes sense. And you'll see that there's some parts here where I'll draw something in and I don't really like it, so I smudge it and I just keep going and keep playing with it until I'm happy. And there you have it, your completed Easter chalkboard. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're looking for more Eastery DIY kind of things, next up I'm going to send you to another different Easter related craft, and I'll see you over there.